Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is presented by Regions, and the focus of our show is workplace and workforce trends, trying to learn things from the people that we interview that will help us in our own business, perhaps in our own personal life, learning the trends that they're addressing, how they're dealing with them, and hopefully taking something away that will benefit us all. The show has benefited a number of different times from family business. It's by far my favorite type. Goodness knows there's so much emotion involved in a family business that is absent from, let's say, other traditional businesses, particularly a multi-generational family business. And that's what we'll have as a guest on the show today. Is it manufacturing? No. Is it marketing? No. It's something completely different, and I'll begin to get into it this way. If you said to me, Cam, pick your favorite city in the world, the place where we could put you and you're going to find something to do and enjoy yourself all day long. There's something strange and new around the corner everywhere you go. Where would it be for me? New Orleans. Believe it or not, New Orleans. Of all the cities in the world that I visited, and there are many more that I have not visited than I have, the one that I would choose to come back to over and over again isn't far at all from us as we sit here and listen right now. New Orleans is perhaps the strangest, most wonderful place that I know. I chose to go to college there due to the uniqueness of that town. And the best description I've ever heard of New Orleans, the one that I fall back on the most, is that it's the northernmost tip of the Caribbean. And I think that's perfect. It kind of runs on island time. The rules in New Orleans don't apply elsewhere. And I know there are plenty of people listening who have visited New Orleans for many different reasons and come away with different opinions than my own. As for me, I love the place. The music, the people, the food, the traditions, the rules, everything's different in New Orleans. The family business that I'm referring to today is 3 generations deep. They started as a speakeasy back in the day, and today they are known as one of the world's most famous bars. That bar is Pat O'Brien's. If you know New Orleans, the chances are you've been to Pat O'Brien's. Goodness knows I did. As a student at Tulane, when I went to New Orleans, I don't even know what the drinking age was, but there was never a problem as a freshman getting into Pat O'Brien's and sitting down at the piano bar or by the big lit fountain, whatever it may be. We loved it there. We didn't go there much, though, after the first part of college because everything in there cost a little bit more than a student's budget would allow. But when we'd have friends, when we'd have events, formals, things of that nature, chances are we'd visit Pat O'Brien's at some point. And anybody that has never been to New Orleans and wants to see the French Quarter, that's where most people go if they've never been to New Orleans, will certainly go by Pat O'Brien's, visit the piano bar, walk around, and likely have one of the hurricanes. Our guest on the show today is 3rd-generation president of Pat O'Brien's. And running a family business is difficult. Running a family business that has the words world famous in front of the name, as in the world famous Pat O'Brien's bar, has got to have its own set of unique challenges. When we come back, we'll meet the current president of Pat O'Brien's, hear the story of how it's transitioned from one generation to the next, talk about their experiences in COVID, and see what we might can learn from a 3rd-generation world-famous business. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions, and we'll be right back after this break.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Do you have a plan to protect your income if you can't work? We'd all like to believe that we'll never be disabled, but the reality is it could happen to you. And if it does, will your income be protected, your family be cared for? Richard Otts has served the Gulf Coast since 1997. If you'd like more information about disability insurance, contact Richard 251-342-8917. That's 251-342-8917.
Regardless of the virus, every one of us will be impacted by today's new economy. I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m., we'll begin special edition shows helping small businesses react to these times. I'll have guests with a deep expertise, and I'll push them to offer actionable ideas for you and me. And we'll take your calls. Join me Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. here on FM Talk 106.5.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions, and on the line with me is Shelly Waguespack. She is the current president CEO of Pat O'Brien's, one of the world's most famous bars, and without a doubt, one of the most unique and iconic locations on St. Peter's Street in New Orleans. Shelly, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Well, thank you very much, Cam. Happy to be here.
There are so many people out there listening that are familiar with Pat O'Brien's as a destination. It's as a Tulane freshman, I said in my opening comments before I got you on the line, it's a place that we used to go and couldn't believe that we were allowed in there. And it was just an explosion of fun and good time. And it's an iconic place. And recently, I guess about 2-3 months ago, prior to COVID, I went to a corporate event in one of the private rooms at Pat O'Brien's. It's an iconic location. It's an iconic destination known worldwide. Tell me quickly, what is the story of Pat O'Brien's?
Okay. Well, the story, I guess I'll quickly start from the beginning. It actually opened down the street on St. Peter in the 600 block in a tiny little place in 1933. And then 1941, Pat O'Brien and Charlie Cantrell bought the location that we're currently in 1941. So they moved the business there. And at that point, my grandfather stepped in as general manager in the 1940s. And then the business just progressed. It was really an explosion on the nightlife scene in New Orleans, specifically with music. The Piano Lounge was iconic. The piano players were famous. People would travel from all over the place to come see particular piano players. And some of the older folks would remember some of the names like Emile and Connie Kay and people like that. So it started off with music, and the patio, of course, became hugely popular with the Flaming Fountain, which, by the way, is designed to look like a champagne glass with champagne overflowing.
Interesting.
So, they're all kind of like quirky little things in our buildings that have meaning. And some meanings we know, and some we don't, and some are, we think are true, and some we don't know if are true. So there have been so many people throughout the decades that have participated in everything Pat O'Brien's, whether it's the decor, whether it's the attitude, whether it's anything. So we have a lot of input from many different people, and it shows, because you kind of scratch your head going, well, what does that mean? I mean, we're in the midst of this pandemic, and we took the opportunity to clean up and change and improve and do a lot of things. And in that process, you realize things about the buildings that you never realized, even though we're walking past them for 30 years or 40 years. So it's really it's cool. And the buildings are so old, dating from 1981. No, 1970. And that means 1792. I'm getting my dates all messed
1792,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
1792. It's fantastic. And I think so many people have wonderful memories of Pat O'Brien's. It's just an iconic destination. But talk to me about your response to COVID. How many people were you employing, let's say, in the height of the economy in mid-February? And how many are working today?
Well, at that time, we had a little over 200, including some part-timers for private party events. Currently, we have 54 on payroll, and that includes salaried people, other key people, entertainers at the moment. So, we're really trying to keep as many people as we can on. It's as you can imagine, it's very difficult not having any income, but, I'm doing the best we can for those people that I really want to keep close to heart.
I'm surprised, Shelly, frankly, that you have 54. I was expecting you to say 10 or 12, 15. 54 is 30 more than I thought you were going to say.
It's a lot, but I think I hope in the long run it's going to be the right thing to do.
Yeah. Did you guys apply for the PPP loans?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think most people have. Tell me this, has Pat O'Brien's ever been closed this many days before in the history of the bar?
For Katrina, yes. We closed from August 29th, apparently for the hurricane, and then we opened November 7th.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty comparable. It's a totally different feeling. After Katrina, everything was grossed, quite frankly. Everything was moldy and, the city was just a mess. This is just kind of like a COVID fog. We're all just kind of like, okay, what can we do? What can we do to stay active? What can we do to keep this business, vital and important and on top of mind? So, our entertainers are doing weekly shows from their homes, which is super cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. We started it about a month ago, and they do the show, and it's all requests. People text in. It's through Facebook Live.
Yeah,
and people send in requests and Venmo tips if they want to. If they don't want to, it's not a big deal. So it's been really, really, really fun.
So I hear you say that you're cleaning up the place, you're fixing it up, et cetera. But when you've got an iconic destination like that, where generations of customers have come and they recognize things, for example, the piano bar and the flaming fountain and everything like that, I would sense that you have to be careful about what you decide to change, because so much of the place, you kind of get restricted when you're in a historical property, particularly one that people are so fond of, and you don't want them to come through the door in, let's say, June, let's hope, July, and walk through and say, wait a minute, they changed the place. They added lights. They removed the tables. How are you deciding what to do?
Oh my gosh, Cam, you hit it on the head. It is a fine line between making improvements and keeping it very traditional and familiar. So we're doing things like we have since we've been around for so long, you can imagine the amount of wiring that we have around. A lot of old wiring, and I'm just using this as a for instance.
Yeah.
So removing all the old computer wires that we have, all the old cables that we have that we're not using, that we just haven't had the time, the downtime to physically get up there and remove that kind of stuff. We're painting. I mean, it's a constant maintenance issue with the building.
Sure.
So we're always painting. So that has a lot to do with it. The managers are out there rolling brushes and pressure washing the floors, things like that. One kind of big thing that we changed is, I don't know if you guys remember, but the patio bar has this huge display of bottles of inventory that it has always been there on bottom shelves and top shelves. I mean, like a couple of hundred bottles.
Yeah.
And it was really for display because it looks really pretty, but really unuseful at this time. We sell so much beer now. I mean, literally the bartenders are putting beer in buckets behind the bars to keep the beer cold because we go through so much. So we took this opportunity to kind of like knock out some of the bricks of the back bar, and we're installing more beer coolers with glass doors.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest like visual change that we've done. So it's really not much. I mean, I made a point weeks ago where they started painting some things, and I'm like, hold on, don't be painting that, because that doesn't need to be painted. We want character. We don't want glossy black paint on everything. So I kind of had to put my foot down on some things, but generally everybody's using pretty much common sense that, okay, yeah, this should be painted. Yes, the furniture can be painted, things like that. It's going to look nice and shiny and pretty, but not to the extent where people are going to really notice. Like we're replacing some mirrors that have been up there for 6 decades and things like that. So the mirrors look good. The mirrors are not, they're new, but you hit it on the head. There is definitely a fine line between improvement and aesthetically, changing the whole thing.
You don't want it to look Disney. You don't want it. You could paint the character out of the place. I'm curious, is the city of New Orleans or some sort of French Quarter Commission, are they involved in this? Do they have to approve anything like this?
No, not stuff like this, because this is just basic painting that we would normally do on a daily basis. You can the View Quarry Commission gets involved if you change colors of something, or if you change product that you're using because it's historical. But what we're doing is not. It doesn't involve the View Quarry Commission.
Well, that's good. Keep another hand out of it. In Mobile, where I live, there are old homes that in order to change the homes, to do anything to them, you have to get approval of a certain commission, because they're historical elements that they demand remain in place. And it's just, those that live in those homes tell me it's just, they almost wish it had never been designated a historical home. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the trends that are influencing your business. You mentioned a move to beer. So we'll talk about consumption trends and what people are buying today, as well as what you think your customers, your patrons are looking for today that may be different. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. I'm on the line with Shelly Waguespack of the world-famous Pat O'Brien's Bar in New Orleans. We'll be right back.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us, and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer, because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com, or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. On the line with me is Shelly Waguespack. To me, she's famous. She's royalty. She's a very important person in my favorite city in the world, and I'm delighted to have her on the line. Shelly, prior to the break, we were talking about trends. You guys were moving more to beer. You serve a lot of beer now, that display of bottles. People just don't drink bottled liquor anymore. Is that what you're saying? What are those consumer trends?
Oh no, people are definitely drinking liquor. We added some beer coolers mainly because, not necessarily because of the number of units that we're selling, it's the variety that we're selling. And we just don't have the room to keep adding more and more craft beers
Oh, yeah.
stay up to date with what the consumer wants. But I mean, as you could imagine, it's cyclical, and it's everything. Like 5 years ago, tequila was popular, and prior to that, flavored vodkas were popular.
Yeah.
Well, bourbon is the big thing right now. So, and with men and women. So we have a nice display of bourbons on the shelf, available, but that's the big thing. And I mean, it's one of my favorites, so I can't deny that trend, but in the next few years, there'll be another trend. And like the flavored seltzer waters are so popular, like the Trulies and the whatever the young ones drink.
The White Claw.
Yeah, the White Claw.
Yes.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it.
I see them all over the place. And the young ones drink it. That's true. That's what I see anyway.
That's what the 21 to, I'd say, late 20s. That's their thing. That and bourbon. So yeah, I mean, we just try to keep up with the trends and know what people are drinking. I mean, you can read as many industry magazines as you want, but the real life is real life. So
Yeah.
when people start ordering certain things, or they ask for certain things, you got to pay attention.
It would seem to me that, considering the volume of patronage that you have, and that they come from across the United States and to an extent from all over the world, you may be kind of a leading indicator of what the new trends may be. Have you ever considered that?
For decades, the CBB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, used to stay close contact with us to find out what our numbers are, what people are doing, what people are asking for, because we pretty much used to be the gateway into New Orleans. I don't know what the situation is now, because I really don't keep track of it there, but we used to be one of the biggest games in town, or the game in town. So everybody would pretty much come through our doors, not necessarily to drink, spend money, or whatever, just to come see what it looks like.
Yeah.
But there's so many different things to do in New Orleans now, and it's wonderful. There are lots of attractions, lots of bars, lots of huge amount of restaurants. I don't know if we're the first stop for many folks, but we're certainly high up there. And I'm so proud of our team that makes it happen every day. And I really have to commend our managers and our staff, because if you go someplace, if the employees or the staff are not happy with where they're working, you can just tell. And the customer knows that. So I really feel like our customers, our guests, come in, and they come in with the happiness filled in their heart that they're in a place where the employees truly are happy to be, and they're respected at that.
I'm curious, if I were to stand, you talk about your guests, if I were to stand at the front door of Pat O'Brien's, let's say 25 years ago and today, what is the difference in the guest between those two times?
25 years ago, let's see, that would have been in around 2000, 1995.
Yeah.
The difference in the guests. Oh, well, the big difference in the guests these days is that the guests 25 years ago actually looked up, and they walked in and they said, "Hey, how you doing?" Now guests are looking at their phone. Everybody's looking at their phone, going, "Okay, Pat O'Brien's. Let me give you the history of Pat O'Brien's." And everybody's on their phone, which is so frustrating.
Yes. Tell me this: do you have an Instagram spot in the bar where people can stand up with a background behind them and get their Instagram picture and post it?
We thought about that, but really, there's no. Well, I guess I'm not a social media guru, so I have my marketing person working on that. We have an Instagram account. We have Facebook, of course. We have all the yada yadas that we need. We thought about having an area where people could take their picture, but really, there's no place that we want to cover up with some kind of, the whole place, the whole patio is a backdrop. So, I don't want to be so trite as to say, okay, this is going to be the spot.
Right.
So that because the whole place is the spot.
Yeah, it is. That's wonderful. Tell me this. So you're interviewing a new server, and you offer a unique work environment, which is a historic place, a place of celebration, and food service, waiters, waitresses in that environment have to be braced for people heavily in the moment. How would you describe your workplace to someone interviewing for a server's job?
How would I describe our workplace?
Well, let me ask it differently. What qualities would you say are necessary to be a successful server in your environment?
Well, each server has a unique offering. Some are motivated by tips and work fast. Some are motivated by just being with the public and being a part of that. So each one, we have some that are really good sellers. We have some that are really good talkers. We have some that are so personable that you just want to like take them home because they're so cute. And each one has a little different thing. People work for Pat O'Brien's for different reasons. And I think the reasons are such that I just described. And of course, money is a huge factor. Our employees can make quite a bit of money when we're in peak season. Now we're coming in the summertime and it's going to be a lot slower, but those smart employees will know and plan and foresee what their earnings are going to be. So the ones that have been around for a long time know, okay, summertime is going to be slow. So what we're doing in the fall and spring, that's going to be what what you have to plan on for the year.
Do you have turnover issues with your wait staff?
Not really with the wait staff. Turnover comes more with the difficult jobs like porters, the ones that bring the ice back and forth to the bar and the trash and stuff like that. We have some porters that have been with us for a long time, but actually the porters that we have now have been with us quite a while. So the ones we have now have been really dedicated and awesome, and they're just dying to come back.
Is there a pecking order to where people work? In other words, the longer you're at Pat O'Brien's, you're going to get access to, for example, the piano bar, or a new guy has to come in and work the patio. Is there any sort of progression into where the waiters can work?
The waiters, not really.
I'm sorry, the servers, the bartenders, whatever it may be.
All of them. Well, typically a new bartender will come in and work the waiter's hole, which is the area where the bartender prepares the drink for the waiters. So they would either work the waiter's hole or the and on the patio, or the waiter's hole in the piano lounge. And that's really for them to get a fast track learning of or education of how to make drinks, what to do, because that's where the volume is. They might work. They might put them in on a Friday night as their first night and just let them work the weekend. And it's really amazing how much people can learn when you're working that fast. You would think it would be more hectic and difficult, but you really have to have the speed to really have it sink in on what to do. Like if somebody comes in during the summer, it's really difficult for them to learn everything because it's so slow.
Yeah. That's interesting that the best way to teach these guys is in the height of the season when it's busiest. There's no better way to learn than throwing them into that environment. It's almost opposite of what I would imagine. But
I know,
who would argue with you? I mean, you're like I said, one of the most iconic bars in the world. And what you guys do, you seem to have figured it out quite well. I want to talk about being third generation in a world famous destination. Do you wake up each day and say, gosh, I've got an obligation that's 3 generations before me and maybe even generations to come? What's it like to be affiliated with a world famous destination?
Well, again, you hit it on the head. It is an obligation. We have a lot of employees that depend on the success of this business, and I feel it's my duty to carry it on at the best of my ability. And sometimes we doubt ourselves, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we think, oh, we're doing it right. Sometimes you kind of go, oh, we might need to rethink that. But yeah, it took me quite a while, quite frankly, to kind of understand and grasp what it is that I have here. it took me several years after my father passed away that I was like, oh, wow, I really am in charge of this. This is an animal. This is a lot of stuff. This is a big octopus that stretches all over the place in many, many different areas, from private parties to bottling plants to wholesaling to, there are a lot of aspects of this business that that luckily, I'm very fortunate that I have fantastic people that are in charge of each one of those businesses or departments. So I depend heavily on the expertise of the people that work for me, and I really appreciate them. As far as the future, my oldest son, who is going to be 25 shortly, for years has wanted to kind of get involved in this business and excuse me, and learn it. And that's all cool. That's great. He graduated from LSU. And prior to him graduating from LSU, he would work summers either at the warehouse doing maintenance kind of things, or he would bartend here at Pat O'Brien. So he's kind of gotten an overview of what it's all about. Of course, he has a huge amount to learn, but that's the succession plan. Is that my son wants to be involved, and my other son, who's a junior at LSU, is kind of toying with it as well. They're both business majors, so I feel confident that as long as they like the business, and I know my oldest son does, I'm good with it. Because if you don't like this business, then you're going to be one miserable person, because it's a difficult it's a difficult business to be in if you don't like it. It's hard. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stress, and especially when you have so many people on payroll and they're counting on you for their livelihood. You got to make it work.
It's all consuming. I think any business that is designed to entertain the guest is all consuming. And there's an extraordinary amount of work involved that is not visible from the naked eye, particularly to those that have never been in that business before. Let's go to break. When we come back to break, I want to talk about some of the perhaps unique elements of your location, of your business, perhaps where do you buy all these hurricane glasses? Who makes those for you? And how many do you buy in a year? And things of that nature, which I think would be very interesting. Folks, you're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We'll be right back.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess.
Mom!
Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His No Mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook. Call 634-0100 or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line with me is Shelly Waguespack. She is the president of Pat O'Brien's, the world-famous Pat O'Brien's Bar in New Orleans on St. Peter Street. If you've ever been there or if you've ever been to New Orleans, the chances are you've been to Pat O'Brien's or at least know about it or where it is. It is iconic worldwide. Shelly, are there other bars, let's say, worldwide that you think carry as much fame as Pat O'Brien's does?
I'm at a loss. I don't know.
I don't know of one. However, I'm extraordinarily biased, but I don't know of another one that I've ever heard of nor been to that carries the same type of reputation as that one does. I'm curious from a personal point of view. You've got two sons that both went to LSU. You and I both graduated from Tulane. Is there a small sear in your soul to know that you've paid LSU tuition and you've fed your children to that university?
Oh well, Cam. It has been a big bone of contention in our house, but I'm trying to get over it.
Yeah,
I have a daughter at LSU too.
Really?
So, for the longest time, we had some friction.
Yeah,
but I've tried to level everybody out.
A mother's love can oversee these extraordinary poor decisions that a child will make, and I understand that. I've got a daughter that is hinting at going to Auburn. My family has been Alabama for years, and we've told her, you're welcome to go to Auburn. You'll have to pay for it yourself, and you can never come home again. But you're welcome to go to Auburn if that's what you so choose.
That's hysterical.
We're trying to dance clear of that what is going to be a big family decision here. So let me ask you a couple of things that are maybe trivial, but are kind of interesting, I think, to the people that are familiar with Pat O'Brien's. The Hurricane, the drink. It's iconic. It's featured on your website. And I didn't realize until spending some time on the site that it's named out of the shape of the glass.
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Yes. Well, again, there are a couple of versions of that, but what my dad always told me, my grandpa always told me that it basically a glass salesman showed up and he had a hurricane-shaped glass. And at the same time, they were kind of developing the hurricane drink. So just kind of put two and two together and said, okay, let's call it the Hurricane.
Sure.
And that's kind of it. I mean, great things happen very simply.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a hurricane lamp. And an antique collector would be able to look at the shape of the glass on the lamp and say, oh, that's called a hurricane lamp. And that is the shape of the hurricane. It has been one of these things like Xerox, maybe, where the name has taken over the original meaning. The hurricane is now the drink versus the hurricane lamp. So what song has been played in the piano bar so many times that you hope you'll never hear it again?
Well, you have your old staples like Piano Man, Billy Joel, and that country song, The Day Your Mama Got Out of Prison. I can't think of that.
Yeah.
It's called the Chicken Song or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the old Sarah Standby. That's always, for decades, been a popular one.
Yeah. Do your piano players ever come to you and say, I just can't play that anymore. I can't do it. I can't stand it. I used to love the song, but now I hate it. Do they ever, or do they realize, I think about somebody like Jimmy Buffett, who you're likely familiar with. He's kind of a New Orleans personality, a New Orleans familiarity. He's probably sung Cheeseburger in Paradise 1,000 times by now. And he sits there on this stage, and I'm imagining this, and says, I got to sing this stupid song again, but they will leave unless I play it. And I would suspect that your piano bar players think the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to have to play Piano Man tonight at least 5 times over the course of the night. But if I don't play it, they'll riot. Have they ever said anything like that to you?
No, they have not. And I really think that the people that have that in them, the entertainers and singers, thrive on that energy that the room or the concert hall or whatever, they thrive on that. And they can play a song 10,000 times, but as long as they get that feedback, they'll play it 10,000 more.
Oh, I see.
That's so important to them.
That's the nature of an entertainer, huh?
Yep, it truly is.
When one of the piano players leaves, retires, moves on, how hard is it to find their replacement? That's a special talent to be able to entertain like that and to have such a versatility of song.
It's really not too difficult, and we don't have them leave or retire very often. And we've gone through our fair share of entertainers. The group we have now is just fantastic, as well as they always have been. But you can pretty much weed out the ones that can handle it and the ones that can't from the get go.
Oh, yeah.
After about a week, it's hard to, you could imagine that you're up on the stage and you have 200 people screaming and yelling and having fun, and you want to keep it up. It's hard to maintain personality and keep up your style and the quality of your voice with that. It's hard to contend with that room because it's difficult. So, pretty quickly they realize, okay, I can do this or I can't do this. This is not my cup of tea, or wow, I really want to work this and learn how to do it even better.
Yeah. Interesting. What a commitment. So here's a question. You could walk into Pat O'Brien's, your bar, anonymous. You're in full costume. I remember reading a story that Paul McCartney spent Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and he got up every day and put on a costume so he wasn't recognized and could be anonymous moving around New Orleans. You're in full costume, you're anonymous, and you're going to walk into Pat O'Brien's and you're going to enjoy yourself for the evening. What are you going to do when you get through those doors?
What would I do? What would be my first point?
Yeah.
Probably go to the piano lounge.
Yeah.
Because it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And participate, clapping hands, singing. And I mean, not that I wouldn't do that without a costume, but it was like, that's what I would do. And, each area of our facility has a different personality. So if you want to kick it up and have a great time, you go on the piano lounge, sing along and everything else. And then you can turn around, 2 minutes later, walk in the patio and sit and have a cocktail, watch the fountain, and just watch people go by. And then you can go to the main bar, which has more like a local feel, and chit chat with customers at the bar, which everybody's always willing to talk, and just kind of chill and have a drink, listen to the jukebox, maybe dance around a little bit, and then venture into the restaurant, have some appetizers, have a drink. I mean, it's every place has a different kind of thing.
Yeah. Looking back, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
If I were like in the 1940s or 50s?
No. From your time,
Okay.
Since you joined Pat O'Brien's as the daughter to today.
What I would absolutely do differently is I would have patented the word hurricane. I would have trademarked the word hurricane. When I kind of came into the picture, they were trademarking some things, and I really kind of took the ball with the trademarking. But at that time, like you said, it became like Xerox, so it was way too general. So what I had to do was trademark Pat O'Brien's Hurricane, and that also kind of went hand in hand with our franchises. Franchises can serve. They're a part of their franchise agreement is they can serve Pat O'Brien's Hurricanes. So it's all part of the franchise lingo, but it kind of all happens at the same time with the trademarking and franchises.
So that means that a competitor down the street can also sell a Hurricane.
And they do.
And they do.
They sell them. They sell them all over the place, all over the French Quarter, all over the country. It's everywhere. But that's fine. Ours is totally different than what other people concoct. And it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Our drink is consistent. It is what it is, and it's always been this. Somebody else might put, red wine in there. Somebody might put pineapple juice. It's all different. It's all different.
So you would have immediately tried to trademark the name Hurricane. Anything else if you could do it all over again?
Well, I mean, through the years, you just kind of think, okay, I wouldn't say necessarily do it again, but change. Like one change that we made last fall. If you remember, we've always had a glass deposit on our glassware. So you buy the drink, you buy the glass. If you don't want the glass, you turn the glass back up to the bar and you get your money back.
Yeah.
And that was done years ago because people kept stealing everything. So to combat that, they said, okay, well, you're going to pay for the glass ahead of time. And if you don't want it, here, you can take your money back. Or if you break it, then you pay for it, whatever. Well, last fall, just because times have changed, I really wanted to get to a point where we're just like other places, and the glass is the glass. You drink out of the glass, and if you want to buy the glass, you can go to the gift shop and buy the glass. And it just because there's so many reasons for that. Partly because the customer really thought we were doing this because we wanted them to bust their own table, and that wasn't the reason at all.
Interesting.
It was really aggravating me and really disturbing me because people would get angry about it, and they would say they want us to bust our own table. This is ridiculous. This is, whatever. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's just so you can get your money back. It's not that we want you to mush your table. So it was that, and just the whole open end of deposits and whatnot. I really just wanted to get clean and get straight. Not, well, clean's the wrong word, but I just wanted to make things easy.
Simple.
So simple, exactly. And since my dad has passed away, that's been my goal, was to make things simple. Let's do the smart way of what we need to do, continue to do it really well, but we don't need to make things so complicated, such as the glass deposit thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And it's become a good bit more simple. I was unaware of that change. I don't think I've ordered a hurricane there for a while, but I was unaware of that change. Shelly, I want to thank you for your time and your insight. And it's really kind of cool, frankly, talking to what I would consider a celebrity from my own point of view. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, very nice talking with you, Cam. I appreciate the time as well.
Shelly, folks, is going to offer an incentive using a coupon code for her website if you want anything from there, and we will give you that incentive. You will have to check in the final segment or likely online. We'll put it into the what am I trying to say? The podcast notes online where we can get that as we clarify exactly what that is. Shelly Waguespack is the president of Pat O'Brien, the world famous Pat O'Brien's on St. Peter's Street in New Orleans. One of my favorite places. It's been an honor. This is What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working, brought to you by Regions. We'll come back in a moment with final comments.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts.
Regardless of the virus, every one of us will be impacted by today's new economy. I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m., we'll begin special edition shows helping small businesses react to these times. I'll have guests with a deep expertise, and I'll push them to offer actionable ideas for you and me. And we'll take your calls. Join me Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. here on FM Talk 106.5.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. And I want to kind of put a bow on the show today. We had a wonderful conversation with Shelly Waguespack of Pat O'Brien's, the world famous Pat O'Brien's bar, talking about some of the trends that are influencing them, from the drinks that the customers drink to what they're looking at. I thought that was very insightful. As they walk through the door of Pat O'Brien's, used to look up, make eye contact, say hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it may be. Now everybody's staring into their phones, and that's not unique to Pat O'Brien's. That's pretty much, it seems like, wherever you go these days. Now, I have, and you may have noticed this in me, an extraordinary fondness for so many things New Orleans. And in fact, if someone said, all right, Cam, we're going to give you a pile of money, and you've got to buy a second place. I don't want a beach house. I don't really want a mountain house, but I would take a place in New Orleans, a place somewhere on Royal Street in the Esplanade side of Royal Street, if you know where that is, upstairs where I could sit on the balcony and look up and down Royal Street. I find that place just enchanting, and the amount of talented authors and actors and musicians, etc. It just oozes up from the street, and you hear this all the time about New Orleans, but that's the way I feel. And while I went into this conversation with Shelly trying to keep a level head and a clear head and not get a little giddy like a school child, I still got giddy like a school child. I just have an unhealthy, unreasonable, but fantastic view of that place. I want to add this. I am a firm believer in that everybody needs to have some point in their life worked in the food service industry because it gives you an extraordinary perspective of the world, being able to or having to wait tables, to bus tables, to tend bar, to go through that, to work in coordination with the kitchen staff. Throughout college, in order to make ends meet, I waited tables. And I waited at a place called Que Sera that was on St. Charles Avenue. I waited at another place called Vita's Cafe. I picked up odd jobs, waiting tables, bussing tables, I worked at the different hotels, serving food when they had a big convention there. I would walk around in my white shirt and black pants with a tray, and people would pick the food up off the tray. And I can tell you this, once you've worked food service, you see the world differently. And in fact, if one of my children were to say, Dad, what type of person should I marry, regardless, male or female, or if one of my boy children or girl children, what type of person should I marry? I would list all the qualities that I think would make a good spouse. And I would say, and hopefully will say one of these days, and they need to have worked food service at some part of their career. Because what you learn doing that about people and processes and service, etc., are lessons that you remember forever. And I'm a big fan of the lessons that came out of my time in food service in New Orleans as well as elsewhere, but mostly in New Orleans during college as I tried to make ends meet and learn to wait tables, to bus tables, etc., whatever it may be. It's important stuff. I really think it is. And I heard Shelly talk about that and finding the right people to work for her. Never did I think that the best way to train a bartender in what I suspect is one of the world's busiest and most famous bars is to put them in the environment in the busiest time of year. In fact, that seems to make, at first blush, no sense. That you want to walk them into the job, not drop them in there learning through the flames, learning on the run. But that's not what she says works for them. And I wonder if there's not a message for us in there somehow of the way we train people. Perhaps the best way to get people up to speed in our own workplaces is by throwing them to the wolves fairly quickly. And maybe there's a better outcome for that. And the purpose of the show is to learn from my guests' experiences. And what she clearly said, what Shelly clearly said was, the bartenders who do the best are the ones that come on during the busy season and make it through. Something to consider there, something to consider as we each think about our own workplaces. Well, that brings another show to the close. And again, it was great to talk to Shelly, kind of a hero of mine, and being third generation of that bar. It's really very, very cool. It's just cool is what it is. And I guess there's no better word for that. Let me thank the people that make this show possible. First, John Thompson is the show's producer. Takes all this content, puts it into the radio format that you're hearing right now. And second would be Kristen Ogden, who marries up busy schedules from many different people, organizes it, shares the questions, shares the bios with me, etc., and gets us all together for this phone call. I want to thank them both. They've been instrumental to the success of the show. You're listening to What's Working. What's Working is proudly brought to you by Regions, and we're very proud to say that. We'll have another show for you next week. Have a good week, everyone.